Welcome to Dead Folks Tales, a New Orleans-centric podcast exploring Southern Gothic stories, history, and hauntings, with your host, paranormal and fantasy author, Nola Nash. Find out more at nolanash.com. Now, let's talk about dead people.
Hi, and welcome back to Dead Folks Tales. We've been gone for a while. We've been on hiatus, but I am so excited to come back with this particular show because this is awesome. So I have my new friend, because I feel like I know her now. We've been talking for a while. Claire Goodchild is here, and I feel like I've known Claire because of her tarot deck, and she has the most beautiful tarot deck, the Antique Anatomy tarot deck. It is gorgeous. I don't have it with me. My friend Rebecca has it, uses it religiously. I mean, loves that deck, and I'm going to have to get my own because we fight over it now. But what I have that Rebecca doesn't is Claire's brand new book, the Book of Seances. It has the same look to it as the Antique Anatomy tarot cards, and you can see some of them on the front there. Claire's artwork is just stunning. This is a fantastic book. And Claire, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about this book. It is stunning. I mean, you guys take a look at some of this stuff. The book itself is beautiful. It is fantastic to hold in your hand. It is easy to read, easy to use. And it is a magnificent reference for all things seances. And what I loved about this book too is your kind of loose usage of the term seance, because you can do these as a one person. So anytime that you are talking to spirits or connecting with anyone on the other side, you're considering that a seance, which I love because it really does, it does kind of encompass that. And it takes a lot of the idea that you have to be a medium, you have to be in this group, you have to be holding hands in a circle at a table to talk to other people. And that's intimidating. You're like, but I want to talk to my grandmother. And maybe that's who you want to talk to, but you're not, at a Victorian, we're not doing the whole big thing with the, knock on the table 3 times. So I love that you have put so much and so many different ways that we can have our own seance, our own experience with that. But this is a massive undertaking. It is a huge guidebook in so many ways, and yet really easy to use. So how did you, when you sat down and said, this is the project I want to work on now, how did you break this down? How did you even tackle something that is so comprehensive?
So I really wanted to write something that I would have found useful if I was starting out with spirit communication. If I was a total beginner, what would I be looking for? But then I was like, well, I want experienced divination people, witches, even mediums, to be able to use it. So I kind of sprinkled that in as well. So you can begin with the book and you can progress with the book as well. But yeah, it's a lot to do. I think
there's so much in here.
Yeah. As an author, right, you want to include everything.
You do. Now, one of the things that I love, because I'm a history nut too. I mean, obviously we're talking about, I talk about it a lot on this show too. I love the history behind all of these different things, whether we are talking about divination with cards, with books, with all sorts of things, everything from pendulums to whatever. You've got the history of where this comes from and all of the different cultures that contributed to what we know now as kind of that modern practice. That's a lot of research to do. I mean, how does that come about? I mean, did you get lost in that? I go down rabbit trails. I find something. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to go research this now. And I forget, oh yeah, I'm writing a book. I got to come back.
You really do. You do get lost in it. And I wanted to include history because I think when it comes to seances and anything to do with paranormal, there's a lot of myth that gets circulated as fact, right?
Yes.
So I really wanted to cover what I could as much as I could. I think the spirit board chapter that really comes through, I have to set this straight because it's all over the place. So that felt good. But yeah, the history, I think you shouldn't use something unless you kind of have an idea about where it came from.
I really like that. And you do address some of the myths. Like, here's the
Mhm.
myth.
Mhm.
Here's what people are going to say.
Yeah.
This is the pushback you may get, but this is what it really is. And I think a lot of the things that people don't use this particular type of meditation. And honestly, it's a meditation. And you address that as well. Like, anytime that you're going to sit down and focus on something like this, if you consider it a meditative process, then it takes a lot of the hocus pocus, heebie-jeebies kind of things out of it. And it actually becomes something that is very calming and very centering for you to do. And I love that approach. And I think the lesson of the history, where it came from, debunking some of the myths that go along with it, not only add validity to the practice and the time that you are spending with it, but I think it makes it even that much more meaningful, because you know that this is something that is part of kind of the human fabric, the human spiritual fabric. Of course,
Exactly.
it's this tapestry of learning and exploring and spirituality that has all come together from across the globe, all over the place, into this kind of melting pot that we have now. And what a beautiful way to connect with not only history and ancestors, but just other cultures and humanity as well. Did you feel like that was kind of part of your mission too, was to kind of make this something that people could feel that connection, just that's bigger than them?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you put it, I think, more eloquently than I did. But yeah, like when you're talking to spirits, we all come from the same places and we have that human connection. And when you really think about everything that's gone into communicating with them. So let's say you're using tarot, whoever made that deck designed it, but who printed it? What paper is it on? Like things
Yeah.
like that all connects too, right? So
Mhm.
it really does become like a meditation and a ritual.
And I love that. I love that idea of it too. The meditation starts for me with, which deck am I going to pick? Which
Mhm.
tool do I want to use? Because different moods, different feelings, different, just even spiritual places that you are, even just the questions that you're wanting to ponder, seem like it's going to fit better with that certain tool. And if you kind of listen to your intuition about what tool you want to use, then I think that you are more likely going to connect with what you want to connect with, because it feels good to you in that moment. And I love that you give us so many different tools that we can use, and never saying this one is like the end all be all, but you could also do this if if you're not good at this, then you can do this. It's kind of this is your tool for the moment. This is what, and I love that you say, spend time with it. Don't
Yeah.
bail on it after like 20 minutes ago. Nope, can't do that.
No.
I love that
Yeah.
that's part of it, is really kind of digging in with that particular tool and
Mhm.
giving it and yourself a chance to
Right.
learn it, to feel it, to let it speak to you. You give us, as new practitioners, but also as people who are experienced, permission to not get it right the first time, to
Mhm.
not have that moment, and it's okay. I feel like, I kind of thought getting started with all of it, if I don't get the answers that I want right away, if I don't feel that connection right away, then that just means I'm not good at this. And I just, spirits want to talk to me, and, that's kind of sad, because, there were things I wanted to do. But, the way that you explain it to us is like, just like any other conversation, it might take time to warm up until you got
Mhm.
to figure out how
Yeah.
to connect. And it's on you as well as what's on the other side, and kind of providing that
Mhm.
two-way conversation. And not everybody wants to talk at the same time. Not everybody is up to
Right.
having that conversation right then. So the persistence and that encouragement is
Mhm.
great throughout this book. And
Yeah.
again, any level of expertise on this, whether you're
Mhm.
just starting out or whether you've been doing this for a long time, even if you're doing it a long time, you got days where it just doesn't go right. You're just like, that makes no
Exactly.
sense. That doesn't make any
No.
sense to me at all. And then you have those mind-blowing moments like, whoa, that was awesome. And then the next time you try to recapture that, you can't. And it's okay.
It's a whole thing. Yeah.
It is the whole
Ugh.
thing. I mean, as you were learning to do all of these, and then,
Mhm.
to be able to talk about them, I know that you've had your hands on all of these different types of divination.
Yep.
Do you find that you change what you're using often, or do you kind of have your go-to because that's the comfortable thing for you?
So my go-to, I definitely have, and that's like tarot. But now I'm leaning
Which
more
makes sense.
oracle decks even.
Mhm.
Exactly, yeah. But I've started adding in automatic writing at the same time. So
I
I
want
like
to
to have
talk
a
about
pen and
automatic
paper.
writing for a minute
Okay.
because
Yeah.
this is something that, I have read about, there are legends about. One of the most
Mhm.
famous pictures of Marie Laveau was done through automatic drawing. So, I mean, it's like it is part of that Louisiana culture, and then just the
Mhm.
whole divination thing. I don't know that I could turn my own conscious brain off as an author. I would be so
Right.
afraid that what I'm doing is writing the story that I wanna hear.
Right.
How do you separate that?
I don't think you necessarily have to. You know, I was thinking and talking about this earlier, but like, I think I automatic wrote the book.
Oh, I
Um,
love that.
so yeah, like bits and pieces could be you, but there are other pieces. Have you ever like had an experience where you're like, I don't know where that came from, but
Yeah, all the
you
time.
know, yes,
And that's
that
actually I've said that
that's
about my own books. I have to
right.
write. I
Yeah.
feel like they always come through me, not to me. And
Mhm.
that's kind
Exactly.
of
That's what
the
it is.
when you're really in the groove, and I think actually it happens to a lot of authors and they just don't want to admit that because they're like,
Right?
this is my work and I worked really hard. I thought about it. But then we all talk about those moments
Yeah.
that just really kind of flow. It's like
Mhm.
coming out, like the floodgates have opened up and all of a sudden the words are on the page and you don't know what happened. And I love those moments. And I wish more people would kind of give credit to where that actually comes from. So I guess if we're
Mhm.
talking about automatic writing and keeping, letting it be your
Yep.
story, then
Mhm.
yes, I think I have had that experience. I
Right.
don't know that I've ever had that experience though in having like a conversation, like trying to connect with someone
Right.
specifically on the other
Yes.
side. Is that something that you use that for a specific person, or do you just use it more for almost that stream of consciousness? What do I need to know? What do I need to hear? Kind of a thing.
Both, I think. When I have it alongside tarot, then it's a little more specific,
Mhm.
which you might find helpful, right? Like
Yeah, I
if
might
you
do
get,
that.
you get some ideas as you're looking at a card. Um, yeah, it's funny that you say all authors do that because when I was recording the audiobook version, I was like, who wrote this? Like I
I'm like,
didn't write
this is
this.
great. I don't remember any of this, but it's fabulous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really think that's what automatic writing is, and people they get worried, like it comes back to the I'm not going to be good at it thing. But
Mhm.
like just try, you know. What's the worst that could happen? You just have some scribbles on a paper that you can recycle. Like
Well, that's true. That's true. I mean, that is the worst that could happen. And
yeah.
so much of this, you take the creep factor out of it. Like, this isn't weird. This
Mhm.
isn't creepy. You're not going to unleash the demons of hell in your house. I mean, it's not going to happen. The worst that's going to happen is, well, nothing. I mean, that's
Yeah,
sort of like you sat there and you had some
exactly.
quiet time for a while, but nothing really
Right?
happened. But
Yeah.
you keep at it, and then maybe something will
Mhm.
happen, but it's always brought back to that meditative, that quiet conversation with either your
Mhm.
inner self or those that may need to speak to you, or just you may need to speak to someone else. And it's kind of parting the curtain, opening the veil just a little bit and
Mhm.
saying, hey, this, I'm over here. You want to talk to me,
Yeah,
kind of sit down. It's almost like having a cup of tea. We're going to sit down. We're going to have a cup of tea. We're
exactly.
going to have a talk. There's
Yep.
nothing that you don't have that big production of the big Victorian seance
Mhm.
rooms. You've seen it in movies. We've seen the
Mhm.
knock three times on the table if you're here thing. And it may work for people.
Yep.
And it can be fun to have those big kind of ambiance filled seances now and again. But I love that you teach us that we don't have to have that in order to have that
Yeah.
same experience. And I think that that's truly kind of been my biggest takeaway from reading this, other than the background and the history, which, of course, being the history
Mhm.
nut I love, is just the permission that you give
Mhm.
us to just be in that moment. And whatever happens in that
Yeah,
moment is okay. It's okay.
exactly. Yeah.
And
And
it's just precious. I mean, it's just, you just go going, wow, she's so nice. Thanks for telling me that. I needed to know that because I don't know anything about automatic writing, and this is great. You want to try new things because you're so encouraging with it. I think that's important. You've got, let's see, I'm going to open it up here because I want to see like all the different things that we have that we can try. We have got words I can't even, what's the
Rhabdomancy?
There you go. You said it, not me. But we've got scrying. We've got what testography? Did I say that right? I don't know. Words that I know on paper. Tessiography. There it is. With the E on it. Spirit boards, bibliomancy, cartomancy. Cartomancy, of course, is tarot cards. All kinds of things. I like the bibliomancy. Using the books.
Oh, me too.
I love books that idea.
So human, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And it's also kind of a universal thing because, even though people are going, oh, this is that, that's for the atheists. That's for those people. Honestly, it's no different than opening up a Bible and just saying, what do I need to hear today? What do I need?
Exactly.
I have got things weighing on my heart and my mind. I'm going to open up my Bible and see what it says. It's very similar in practice to that. It's just simply taking whatever feels right to you at that moment and doing essentially the same thing, whether it is your Bible, whether it is just, your favorite book. There are things to be found in that. Any book that you can connect with, you can do that with. And I think that's something that if we put our prejudices aside a little bit and just say, hey, this is what I need in my heart and my space, my mind. I'm going to see what's going to make me feel better. And whether you believe that it's coming from yourself, your heart, your God, whatever you think that is sending that to you, it's all about the comfort that you find in the moment.
Yeah, I think that's really nice to think of that way, and I think that people who believe in the paranormal are more like that. Like we're more open, like, okay, maybe it's not from this, but I'm going to believe it is. And that's what matters.
I think so too. And I think honestly, it is so much about what our soul needs at that moment, where it comes from, as long as it is one of those things that makes you feel at peace, you have caused no harm, and you have simply found your own peace. Who really cares where it comes from? You have found something in your own way, whatever tools you use, whatever method that you choose. And you've got so many that you can try in this book. And again, spend some time with them, decide, hey, I've gotten really good at this. I'm pretty comfortable with, but I'm going to stretch myself a little bit. And I'm going to learn how to do this. Scrying has always been something that, it's new to me. Candle scrying, I actually like doing that. And I don't know, like mirrors and water, I haven't really gotten into that, which is really funny because my most recent book is called House of Mirrors and there's souls stuck in them. And so we don't want to, it's like not going to go stare at those souls too much. Get offended, I'm staring at them. But I like the idea of the candle scrying, and I've done that before where you just kind of let that gaze soften. And you almost, then it's, how many of us sit and stare at a campfire or a fireplace and there's that calming feeling, like your thoughts just kind of start to flow. You kind of open up a little bit, you just relax. And candle scrying is very much the same way for me because it's that warm glow of that candle. You're focused on that just the movement of the flame. And it's, you're unfocused on it. You're not staring at the light there. You're going to end up with spots in front of your eyes. But it is giving you something to center on that's going to kind of then kind of buffer the noise, the chaos, the static that's around you. And you never know what's going to come into your mind. And honestly, so many of us have done it sitting in front of a campfire. And you don't really realize that's what you're doing because you didn't really go into it with that intent. But in this case, it's having that same experience, but with intent.
Yes. And I like candle scrying because your senses, even though you're relaxed, your senses are engaged. So if you use like a scented candle, and I think people forget that stuff. Like you actually are engaged in it, but you're relaxed. So fire is really interesting in that way, right? Like it soothes
Mhm.
us, but we still get kind of alert around fire.
And yeah, with good reason too. And I think that,
Yeah.
it's that balance between being alert and being so relaxed that allows those thoughts to still come through, and whatever you're trying to connect with to still come through, because you are still conscious enough. You're not totally in that Zen meditative state where
Yeah.
you're almost asleep. You're
Yeah.
still aware enough to kind of still allow those thoughts to
Mhm.
be understood. And even if
Yeah.
they don't make so much sense to you at the moment, it's something that you're going to remember because you're alert enough around that fire to do that. And I mean, it's
Mhm.
human nature. We're going to be alert around fire. That's just what we do.
Yeah,
It's a safety thing.
exactly.
I mean, we got to do that. But we are allowing that defense mechanism, that wall that we tend to put up, that here's the world and I'm going to keep it out here, kind
Mhm.
of a thing. We allow that to break down just a little bit, and there's something relaxing about sitting there with that candle. And I love the scented candle idea. I'll
Mhm.
put oils, I'll dress the
Oh,
candle with the
yeah.
oils and just let that
Yeah.
smell. I love the smell of just whatever the oil that goes with whatever your intention
Mhm.
is, whatever the question is that you have. And engaging so many of your senses is so important too, because it makes it such an immersive experience for you. And we do that with meditation too. We have, our oils going, in our, the aromatherapy stuff going. We've got, incense burning, whatever it is. There's something about that as well that gives us that other thing to focus on too. And it just
Mhm.
it's all about setting the mood. But you can sit there and do it
Right?
too on a bus if you want to. I mean, not with a fire,
Yeah.
but I mean, pull a card out, pull a book out. I mean, if you're on a bus somewhere and you're riding across town
Mhm.
and you've got a question, open a book. Like, you can
Yeah.
still do it, and it's accessible. I love that.
Oh, perfect. I was just going to say, like, yeah, I wanted stuff in there that is accessible. So, like, even if you can't get a tarot deck, you can get a book from the library. Like you
Mhm.
can do this with a pen and paper. You can do it with a book. You can get dominoes from the dollar store.
Mhm.
Like that was important to me too, that everyone has something.
Exactly. We get intimidated by things like
Mhm.
astrology, numerology. While those things are fascinating in their own right, they involve a lot of memorization, a
Yeah.
lot of, you know, just you got to know what all of these things are
Yeah.
and how it coordinates. You're like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know where Mars is. I just depend on everyone else to tell me about the Mercury retrograde. I can find that out on Facebook. That's what I know about astrology. I know what my sign is, and I know when someone will let me know in a meme on Facebook when Mars is. We've got Mercury
Well,
in retrograde.
well,
That's what
right
I know.
now we have Mars in
We
retrograde.
got
So
Mars right now, so who knows? Like, things are
yeah.
crazy, but it's that may be intimidating to people because there's so much
Yeah.
to learn. But
Yeah.
you can open a book. You can really get your hands on the tools that you need for these things really simply, and
Mhm.
to have that experience with as much or as little as you are comfortable putting into it. If you want the big production, you want the huge seance, have a party, get everybody together,
Exactly.
let's do it.
Yeah.
Light
Yeah.
some candles, turn all the lights off, hold hands. We can do this. It's fun. But you can also have that moment by yourself, which
Yeah.
is
Just on your
fantastic.
couch in your pajamas, like I do.
Mhm. Yes. And that, to me, is what makes this book so special, is that your voice that's in it is giving us that permission to try new things. You're encouraging of your readers, and you have done it in such a beautiful, beautiful format that just feels good
Thank
in your
you.
hand, that is easy on the eyes, that is just, you want to open this book and you want to really delve in. And I think that this is a huge, you're going to be very successful with this. I can tell,
Thank you.
because
I
anybody
hope
who
so.
gets their hands on it is going to love it. I mean, just even the hardback cover, y'all, it is just beautiful. I cannot
Oh,
tell you.
I love the
Oh,
hardcover. I got
yes.
so lucky with like the
It's like,
publisher that they like saw the vision, like,
mhm.
and they just executed it perfectly. So
This is not a book to put on your bookshelf and pull out when you want it. This is a
goes
book
on
to
the
leave
table.
out. It does.
Yeah.
This goes on the side table. It goes on the coffee table. Set your deck of tarot cards on top of it. Like, just have it at the ready, because it's just too pretty just to stick away. Like, you just can't do that, because you're going to go, I want to look at the pictures again. I want to read that part again, and it's well researched, well done, and well written, well illustrated. It's a tremendous accomplishment for a book, and I'm
Thank you.
so glad that your publishers were able to execute the vision that you had.
Yeah.
I mean, how lucky is that? How often do we go, that wasn't quite what I
Never.
There are horror stories where it's like, that's not the cover at all that I wanted. But this really is, it just has such a great feel. It's that matte cover. So it's just so nice to have in your hand. The paper is nice and thick, and just, it's good stuff. It is really good stuff. And we've got the red and the green, and even the ink colors are coordinating with the art. It's fantastic. They've done a great job as far as putting it all together. But I have to ask you, because we're talking about seances, so we're going to get away from the book for just a second. As wonderful as the book is, I want to talk about, clearly you've had experiences in seances, or this would not have been something that you wanted to write a whole book about. We know how long it takes to put a book together. You gotta like the subject area if you're going to spend that amount of time in it. So what are some experiences for you that have stood out among your seance experiences? Obviously we don't want to tread into personal things that, you may not want to share, but something that you might feel comfortable sharing that has happened to you in a seance.
So I think the seance that really set everything in motion was not intentional. It was intentional, but I didn't know that's what I was doing. And I put that story in the cartomancy section, but a friend of mine was missing and I didn't know what to do. So, tarot readers, we go to what we're comfortable with. And so I asked for clues about where he might be. And the card showed me the circumstances of his death, which were then confirmed 2-ish months later. And that, I think that really set the spark in my mind, there's something here I have to confirm. If I can talk to my friend through the cards, what else can I do with cards? What else can I do with all these different forms of divination? So,
and that had to feel really good to know that you had that actual connection, that it was confirmed, that you, and then it had to have brought you some, just closure, if nothing else. And then that confidence to know I can do this. There are people there that are waiting to talk to me, that are available should I need them. We have different relationships with people. When they were here with us physically, we have a certain relationship with them, and sometimes that's just the person you need to talk to. And so when they have crossed over, how wonderful to be able to say, this is the person who would have the best advice for me on that. And now you've given us so many different tools and the guidance, the explanation, even with the tarot cards, having the different, it's not just about what does the tarot card mean in a tarot reading, it's how to use that as a communication tool. It changes the game a little bit with tarot here, taking a tool that we know, a tool that we may be comfortable with, because let's be honest, when most of us start doing divination, tarot is where we go, because the pictures cards make them easy for us to learn from. We have the visual, but this changes the tool. It's the same comfortable tool, but it gives us a new way to use it. So that now we have something that we're actually comfortable doing, and bridging that gap that might have been difficult for us to actually cross on our own, and to not have something that we're comfortable with. And I love that. I love that you do give us both aspects of it. Here's what the card is, here's what we're used to with it, and then here's what that can actually mean. So we have the traditional meaning and the spirit message. And it's so awesome to be able to use that. And what a great way, even if you just want to say, my dad died. He was one of the very first COVID deaths. In the country, it was April 2020. The U.S. death toll had not even reached 10,000 when we
I'm
lost my
so
dad.
sorry.
About this, there was no closure. It was a
Yeah.
rough way to lose him. And to be able to pull a card that I'm comfortable with, a card that I know, and just say, Daddy, what do I need to know today? What's going on today, Daddy? And just have that card and that connection to him, something that I'm comfortable with, that I know that I can understand the message clearly. It's a gift that you've given so many people that may have wanted to try this kind of communication, but were afraid of either failing or having to learn something so new and different to them that it wasn't going to be something that they were going to stick with. But you've given us very easy tools to use and some great advice for using those tools. And I think that this has been a remarkable book. And I mean, I hope that it becomes one of those references that are kind of, everybody must have this. I mean, I think everybody must have this. It's fantastic, y'all. And I mean, I say a lot of good things about a lot of books, but I think I have probably bragged on this one a bit more than I have too many things, because it is so useful and it is so user friendly, and it is near and dear to my heart because I do enjoy, that reaching out. I'm not a medium. I've always wished I was, and this is going to get me as close to that as I have the innate abilities to do. I will never be a medium. If you're not a medium, you're not a medium, and you get over that. But you've given me the tools that I can use to kind of make up for the fact that I'm not a medium. A medium may not need all of these. They may have their own way of connecting, and the spirits kind of tend to find them. And while the spirits tend to find me, I don't always understand them. A medium friend of mine said you were both a beacon and a magnet. They're going to see you and they're going to hang out a while. I'm going, great. What do they want? I don't know. You're going to have to figure that out. I'm like, great. I mean, I have a little girl that likes to play with my technology. I know her name is Sarah, and I know she likes my technology. She was a little girl that died in New Orleans of yellow fever. I know these things about her. Part of that comes from Willow, who was the medium who was with me at the time. And she's like, here's some things you need to know about Sarah. Okay. But she came back with me. And so she hangs out with me all the time. And so sometimes it's like, all right, she's doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, what do I need to know? What are you trying to tell me? And so being able to pull some of these tools out is actually going to strengthen that relationship too. So you've got lots of different ways that you can engage with these strategies, with these tools, and just with your amazing advice and lessons in here. So I mean, you are so young to have done so much wonderful stuff.
I think I look younger than I am. But thank you for the compliment. I'm older than I look, and I think, it surprises people. But I think, I'm really sorry about your dad. That's awful. But
it wasn't
at the same time, I'm like, oh, I can give someone comfort, like the same kind of comfort I needed, because my friend was not my father, but like my stepfather. So the closure that you can get, and I think that's really important for people. And I think if I can only affect one person and that person's you, then that is what feels good. Like, oh, I wrote the book for you.
Well, you've absolutely done that. And so take that with you as, you go forth and continue to do just great things with this. I will do what I can do to make sure folks know about this book. It is truly remarkable and gorgeous. Again, I think when you have a pretty book and you keep it out, you're more likely to use it than that book that's kind of bland and you're just going, I mean, it's a good resource, but it's kind of like hard to through. This is one that I found myself just sitting on the couch reading. Like, I'm just reading it. Like, I may not even necessarily be wanting to do any of this right now. It's not like I'm getting the tool out and I'm working with it. It's just an interesting book to read because of the history, because of the just all the information that's there. It's a good read too. So I mean, you've accomplished quite a bit here, and I'll be very honest with you that this will be. I think, give it some time. It's brand new, but give it some time. And I think this is going to be one of those resources that becomes kind kind of one everybody needs and has.
You're going to make me tear up, but thank you.
I didn't mean to make you cry, but I mean, this is truly, I mean, you spent so much time with it. So what you need to hear is what people who haven't spent that much time with it are getting from it. And that if that validates you and the work that you did, the time that you put into it, then know that it was time well spent. Absolutely.
Thank you. That really makes me feel good.
Well, I'm so glad. And I do want to have you back because I want to talk about your tarot deck, and I'll steal Rebecca's so that I can actually have it in my hands. Because we were doing tarot readings at the mall once, and we had your deck there. We had several different decks, and we were like playing with that one, and we had the Light Seekers one, and like all these different decks that we were playing.
Oh, that's a great deck too, Light Seekers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We each have a copy of that one. So we each have our own Light Seekers deck. But I was like, if I want it off with the antique one, would she notice? She'd notice. She uses it all the time. But we'll talk about that one too. And I want the card and the book in my hand because, again, like she said, the book that's with it is as valuable a resource as the cards themselves. So whatever you are putting into the literature that goes with the tools is valuable stuff. So we're going to talk about that one too, because I think it's something everyone needs to have as well.
Yeah. I'm excited about it.
Well, Claire, it has been my pleasure getting to talk to you today. And thank you and your publisher so much for the copy of the book. It is going to be something that I will continue to use and continue to treasure. So when you talk to Fanta, please tell her, and I'll email her myself as well and let her know that this was truly, truly a wonderful experience for me. And I hope for you as well. And I hope that you will come back and join us.
Yeah, you touched my cold Aquarius heart. So.
Well, that's actually a hard thing to do for the Capricorn over here, Miss Logic. I'm a lunar Aquarius, so we're going to tap into the lunar Aquarius side.
See, I'm a lunar Capricorn, so.
Oh my gosh! Well, there we are. Perfect. So we'll allow our signs to do their thing, and give each other that support. And I hope all of the best things for you as this book makes its way out into the world, because it is much, much deserved. Much deserved.
Thank you.
Well, we will talk again soon, and let everyone know where they can find the book, find you, just to connect with you as well.
Oh, yeah. So you can find me at Black in the Moon on Instagram or blackinthemoon.com. That's like my design company name. And the book can be found everywhere, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, but also a lot of small stores are carrying it too. I wish I had a list, but is it
distributed through Ingram? If it's distributed through Ingram, then probably anywhere, like your favorite bookstore online. If you have that little bookstore, search online first. And that's kind of what I always, we love the Zon. They give us the stars and all that. But come on, if we want to support the small people, and we do, oftentimes whenever I'm going to look for something, I'll look on those small bookstore websites. If it can be bought through them, then I will do it that way. Then we go over to Amazon and we put our review there for the rest of the world. But if we can find it there, look for it there, guys. But however you get it, make sure that you go and get this beautiful Book of Seances. And let's see, sticky notes already in the book. Gotta have it.
That's my favorite thing. I mark every page in everything I read. So
I was an English major, an English teacher. I annotate the heck out of stuff. Well, Claire, thank you so much for joining me. We are going to have a good time when we talk tarot with you next time. And for everyone else, thank you so much for joining us. This has been our first episode back from hiatus on Dead Folks Tales. That is a copywritten podcast of Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.